This week, we've celebrated 14 years since Katy Perry released her debut album, One of the Boys. And to commemorate it, I'd like to talk about why this album is underrated in Katy's discography. Many are quick to discuss the success of Teenage Dream, how PRISM has 2 smash singles, and defend or criticize Witness and Smile. One of the Boys seems to be constantly left out of conversation when it comes to Katy's albums. We'll talk about some pretty brief development of the record, as we covered Katy's struggles to release her debut album, and if you're interested in her journey to One of the Boys, be sure to check out my video on her unreleased album, Fingerprints. After the developmental discussion, we'll talk about why this album should get a bit more attention from fans and what areas it excels in. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think of One of the Boys and what your favorite song off the album is. A like and subscription would also be greatly appreciated so you can stay connected to your favorite pop stars. So let's get into it now on Pop Dissected. Following the release and commercial failure of her Christian album Katy Hudson, which only sold 200 copies after Red Hill Records went bankrupt, Katy would move from Santa Barbara to Los Angeles. Beginning work on her debut album at 18, Katy would subsequently be dropped from 2 record labels and have 2 albums shelved, one entitled Fingerprints that would hold the majority of One of the Boys' eventual track listing. It wouldn't be until Angelica Cobb-Baller, who was working as the Senior Vice President of Media and Creative Services for labels such as Capitol Records, would campaign for Katy to move to that label by quite literally taking any and all files about Katy from Columbia Records and bringing them to Capitol. Angelica would actually go on to serve as A&R for One of the Boys and a creative director for Teenage Dream before she moved to Epic Records. Angelica has unfortunately passed away after a battle with cancer, and if you look at her achievements within the industry, she's really done a lot of amazing work, so may she rest in peace. With Katy having over 100 songs under her belt, 5 new songs were created for One of the Boys, while 6 will be pulled from her shelved album. In my video on Fingerprints, I deduced that I Kissed a Girl, Hot and Cold, Mannequin, and You're So Gay were made specifically for One of the Boys. The only song that didn't seem to have a definitive tie to either the shelved album or One of the Boys was the title track. However, I'll make a guess that it was made for the album since they share the same name. As revealed in her 2012 documentary Part of Me, there were 3 songs up for debate to be the lead. We do know Thinking of You was heavily considered to be the frontrunner, and it even has an alternate video made in 2007, which is pretty interesting in its own right. I Kissed a Girl would be the lead due to its surge in popularity. However, there isn't any telling what the other alternatives for a lead were if I Kissed a Girl wasn't the original contender. What do y'all think would have been another good lead single choice? I'm gonna say maybe the title track, Fingerprints, or Hot and Cold. We should quickly note that prior to One of the Boys releasing, a 4-song EP entitled You're So Gay, composed of the title track and a remix of it, Lost, and a cover of Use Your Love was released. The EP was more or less for promotion and wasn't intended to be a huge success, but because it wasn't a big seller, executives actually weren't sure if Katy was going to be marketable, and she may have been on the verge of being dropped for a 3rd time. One of the Boys would go on to debut and peak at number 9 on the Billboard 200 with first week sales of 47,000. As of now, it's accumulated a total of 1.73 million copies as of August 2020 in the United States. We'd also see the album reach number 3 on Billboard's top US alternative and rock albums chart. The album found positions within the top 10 in places such as Austria, Germany, France, and Mexico. As of 2019, the album has sold 4.1 million copies worldwide, with its singles selling nearly 30 million copies. And this does not include stream equivalents. I Kissed a Girl would reach number 1 across the world, with Hot and Cold hitting number 3 on the Hot 100 and performing relatively strong internationally. Thinking of You and Waking Up at Vegas would see moderate success on the charts, while You're So Gay would hit number 1 and number 2 on the US Dance Electronic Singles Chart and Hot Single Sales Chart respectively. Now, what makes One of the Boys underrated amongst Katy's other records, and what about it deserves more recognition? First, let's tackle the soft pop rock influence seen across most of the songs. It was revealed in Part of Me 3D that during initial album sessions in 2005 or so, she was directed to sound more like Avril Lavigne, and bring a vengeance or angst to her music. While that isn't necessarily present in these songs or her unreleased music, there is an attitude and an edge. One of the Boys does lean into pop, but one thing I found so incredible is Katy's voice on these rock-leaning songs. If You Can Afford Me, and outtakes like Diamonds, Weigh Me Down, and Breakout, later given to Miley Cyrus, all showcase this. I believe I've been pretty outspoken saying Katy could revisit this sound. While it may seem trendy to do so now, this genre is her beginning. She started out this way, so she does have a space within this sound. I feel for a lot of the songs, there's a lot more oomph and power in this style of music. While we see this power in later pop-driven tracks, it's just a different energy from this rock sound. What works is though we have these energetic tracks, we're given a taste of more down-tempo songs like I'm Still Breathing and Lost. These are some of Katy's most underrated songs, and honestly, she hasn't put out anything close to the caliber of these tracks since their release. To bridge into my next point, storytelling. The aforementioned tracks provide some of Katy's best lyricism we've seen. I'm Still Breathing is so haunting, detailing a failing relationship by using metaphors of self-inflicted danger. Lost seems to call up to a point in time where Katy felt like giving up on stardom. She has shared how she struggled in LA, having her car impounded twice, hardly having any money to live on, and maybe even considering abandoning her dreams. The title track tells this almost high school-esque narrative of a tomboy girl wanting to win a guy's affection by being more feminine. Almost this, I can be this way or this way. It's an interesting idea that I doubt is heavily explored. Fingerprints, which is my favorite track off this album, is all about leaving a legacy and wanting the special person in your life to be part of that and rise to their full potential. We get so many interesting storylines on One of the Boys that aren't really seen on her other albums. Teenage Dream spans parties, innuendos, empowerment anthems, but does tackle interesting material in songs like Pearl, Who Am I Living For, and Circle the Drain, which are all pretty underrated. PRISM really goes into the more fantastic when it comes to the scope of songs. We do have Ghost, By the Grace of God, and the bonus tracks, which seem to employ more interesting storylines. Now, I'm not saying songs like California Girls, Dark Horse, or her other upbeat tracks don't hold value because of their story or production. But One of the Boys focuses more on generally relatable content that's presented in a unique way. Witness is a bit all over the place with the stories presented, with a few deep cuts like Pendulum and Into Me You See, while Smile is packed with these healing songs that seem to be affirmations to Katy herself. I'm not trying to talk down to any of these albums, it's just if you listen to One of the Boys and then her other albums front to back, or even a select handful of tracks, you'll notice the difference. Also, Katy really rides home with a generally vintage aesthetic around this time. We also get to see her love of campy, food-related attire pop up in this era, which would become a staple during Teenage Dream. While One of the Boys may not be my go-to album when I want to listen to Katy Perry, every time I do, it always feels fresh. Perhaps I don't play the record enough, it's underrated, or it's just that well made. Who knows? But I know I'd like to know what you think of One of the Boys, and do you agree it's an underrated effort? If not, how do you think this album could have improved upon itself? Let me know what you think about this era down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed today's video on Katy Perry, please be sure to check out the description so you can see more videos like this. Also, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe so you can stay connected to your favorite pop stars. I'll see y'all next time.